all the ones that you see that bag was overflowing, these hands did it. It's kind of like when somebody gives you a recipe and you decide you want to go ad hoc. It tastes good though. It tastes real good. That don't even sound good to me, and so I don't do that. One of the questions that I get all the time is, Barbara, what do you do with all that food that you grow in your garden? And so in this video, it's a next series about what I do to preserve the food that I bring from my garden into my kitchen. So I've done 2 other videos like this that I will pop up here back to back so that you can go back and see that. And this has just turned into a whole series. You guys said that you loved it and you wanted me to do more. So here I am meeting you in the kitchen again. If you are new here, welcome to my kitchen. Welcome to my channel. I'm so glad that you're here. Please let me know if you're new and just say hello in the comments. Let me know what city, state, and country you're coming in from so I can say hello back to you. And if you've been here before, thank you so much for continuing to rock with me and support me. And you guys have been in the kitchen with me many times. So one of the things in the summer gardening season, if you plan, even if you don't plan, you have a lot of stuff coming in, a lot of times all at one time. And the struggle can be that it can rot on your counter because you don't know what to do with it. You don't have time. You don't have a plan for the food. And so one of the things that I teach on this channel is to always be intentional about what you are putting in your garden as much as possible in terms of only planting or growing things that your family eats, and then also have a plan for it when it's going to come in your house. If you're going to do, 5 bushels of green beans, are you going to freeze those? Are you going to can those? Are you going to do a mixture of both? So having a plan always works. So in this video, I'm going to go through a couple of different crops and show you some different ways to preserve. In the previous videos that I've showed you, we've done tomato soup. We've done a dry tzatziki starter sauce. We have done a basil. What did we do? We did a basil salt. I don't remember all the recipes. Like I said, the videos, I've done 2 already. This is the 3rd installment of that series. What do I do with all the food? So today we're starting off with tomatoes. And I think I've done tomatoes on every video because there's so many different things that you can do with tomatoes. And today we're actually going to make fire roasted salsa, but we are going to can it instead of putting it in the freezer. So I do have a video, and this is pretty much the exact same recipe, except we're making modifications because we're canning. And so I will also link that video up here where I have made just a roasted tomato salsa. If you don't can, or if you don't want to can it, this video up here will show you exactly what to do and how to take it to your freezer. Or if you just want to make a small batch, then you can downsize the recipe and all of that. This salsa is absolutely amazing. And the thing that takes it over the edge is roasting the tomatoes. I roast my tomatoes for my tomato soup, and I roast my tomatoes for the salsa. So what I have here, we've already washed the tomatoes, and I did this in stages. So last night I had a little pocket of time right after dinner, and I washed the tomatoes, I cored them, and I put them in freezer bags. And instead of me taking them to the freezer, I thought, you know what, let me go ahead and do salsa today. So I put them in my refrigerator. I took them out of the refrigerator and I put them in the oven on 450 for about 30 minutes. So we have pans of tomatoes, and then we have some onions and jalapeno peppers. And so that's what's going to go in our salsa along with some garlic. So I roasted all of that until it gets like a charred or black on the top, and that brings out the most amazing flavor. If you don't do the roasting step, it's not going to taste the same. It's kind of like when somebody gives you a recipe and you decide you want to go ad hoc. Don't go ad hoc, okay? Don't go off on, if you're going to go off on your own reservation, then don't even ask for the recipe. Then just do your thing, right? But if you want to do it just like this, and because this is a canning recipe, I highly recommend that you follow a canning recipe if you're going to can it. Again, you do not have to can this, and so I'm giving you several different options. So in the past 2 or 3 years, I have made this exact salsa recipe, and I have put it in my freezer, and it tastes great. And I've always said, hey, I don't want to can it because I feel like the canning process will dilute the flavor just a little bit, because there's nothing from making it fresh and then going to the freezer and taking it out. It still tastes the exact same. It still tastes fresh. But what I have noticed over the past couple of years is that when I want the salsa, I have to think about it ahead of time and pull it out of the freezer the night before. And there have been times when I wanted salsa and I did not think ahead of time. I just wanted salsa right then. And so this year I decided to can it and just try it and see if we like it. If we like it, that way we'll have some on the shelf. And also if I have an abundance of tomatoes that come in after I get through with all of the tomato projects that I want to do, like spaghetti sauce and all that stuff, if I have tomatoes left over, then I will still do maybe a few for the freezer. So that way I have an option of both. But this year, we're going to go out on a limb and we're going to actually can it. Now, obviously, I have canned salsa. It's been several years ago, and it did still taste good. But when I made this, and it was a different recipe, but when I made this recipe and I was just eating it, I couldn't stop eating it. I was like, oh, let me just put this in the freezer because this is going to taste really fresh, and it does. But one of the things over time is when you pull it out of the freezer, let's say 7 or 8 months, after the fact, then the color is not as rich as the color as when you make it. It still tastes great, but it tends to be not bright red and it starts to be like a reddish orange. So again, that doesn't look necessarily bad, but because I know what it looked like, then it kind of plays with my mind. Does that make sense? So I would say if you are going to do this and freeze it, I would say just like with most freezer things, typically if you eat it within 6 months of being frozen, it's going to have the best quality that you can get when freezing something. It doesn't mean that it's bad after 6 months, but to me, after that 6 month mark, then the color starts to change just a little bit, okay? So we have our tomatoes, we have our food processor. That's what we're gonna do the salsa in. And then I'm using my Presto electric digital canner. I did this, if you watch the videos I did before, I use this. I have all different kinds of canners, but I use this when I have a small batch, which is what we're doing today. When I am doing big batches, like, 15, 20, 25 jars, then I'm using the canner on the stove. And today we're using a water bath canning method, okay? So this has already gone through the process of heating up the jars or warming up the stuff. And so now it's time to fill the jar. So the first thing we're gonna do is get our tomatoes into the food processor. They look, okay. And I was letting it cool off some. It's still a little warm, but let's see if we can get this into the food processor. And this is roughly, the recipe that I'm using is actually, it is a blend of two. I say the blend of two, I'm using the blend of two for measurement purposes. I will link the one that is the ingredient list. So the one that I first saw, it calls for 5 pounds of tomatoes, which I'm pretty sure this is about 5 pounds of tomatoes. And in that recipe, it asked for vinegar, apple cider vinegar. That don't even sound good to me. And so I don't do that. I wanted to use lime juice because that's what I normally use when I make my salsa. So I found a recipe with lime juice, but it was for 2.5 pound tomatoes. And so I'm just using the measurements of the apple cider vinegar, but I'm using lime juice instead. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, because I've been canning a while, that don't bother me at all. And I know that I can substitute those two particular things. But if you're new to canning, I would say follow the recipe exactly. And I am following the recipe. I'm just kind of blending two together, if that makes sense. So let me get the rest of these tomatoes in here. Look, roasted tomatoes just by itself, roasted on top of some pasta or some nice sourdough bread. Like, that's just so good. So very good. Okay, so we have all the tomato, well, we don't have all the tomatoes, and then we have enough. I didn't want it to get too full. We have some tomatoes still reserved here, and I also reserved some onions and jalapeno to go for the next batch. So let me get, I have my lime juice, I have cilantro, I have cumin, I have sugar, and then we're gonna do a little bit of salt. So again, I will link the recipe that I'm using. I'm gonna link the one with the lime juice. It just calls for 2.5 cups. So basically I'm just doubling it, is what I'm doing. So I'm gonna add in the salt. So I'm putting in 2.5 teaspoons of salt, 2/3 cup of lime juice, about 2 teaspoons worth of cilantro. And when it comes to like herbs and stuff like that, onion powder, garlic powder, that does not affect the actual canning process. So you'll feel free to add as much of that as you want. And then I'm gonna add in 2 teaspoons of cumin. And then for me, I'm gonna add in some more garlic powder. Oh, the one thing I forgot was the sugar. So we'll do and I'm just going to pulse it to get to the consistency that I want, which I don't like mine real chunky. Now, let's taste it and see if we need to add anything to it. I only did like a couple of pulses because the tomatoes are roasted, so everything is pretty much already soft. So it only took a couple of pulses. Let's taste it and see. I was trying to say, where is the heat? But the heat just hit the back of my throat. But for me, oh yeah, the heat is there. That's 2 jalapenos. So I'm gonna add in a little bit more sugar to balance out the acidity. And again, the sugar is not gonna affect the canning process. It's a little bit too limey for me. Uh-oh, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to pulse it. That's good. It definitely has some heat. That's good. Now, to me, that doesn't taste as good as the one that I put in the freezer. And that's just because the measurement of the ingredients is a little bit different. I don't nearly put this much lime juice in it when I'm freezing it. And so the sugar definitely balanced out the acidity, but now it's just a little bit too salty for me, but we can fix that. And it's not overly powering salty, but I don't want to taste the salt. I would rather taste the garlic, the cilantro, and the heat is what I would rather taste. But this is another reason why I always save some to do again, because for this batch, I can make it less salty and then I can blend it all together and then it's going to be just perfect, if that makes sense. So it tastes good though. It tastes real good. And this is the day I don't actually have any chips. I'm not looking in my cabinet for chips. I was looking in my cabinet for some more garlic powder. I think I left it on the other side of the kitchen. So let me grab that. I'm gonna put this in a bowl. I'm gonna blend up the second batch. I usually make then I'll bring you back a similar amount of this every time I do it. And so I always do half of the mixture first in the food processor. One, to make sure that my food processor doesn't get overloaded and bubble out of the top. But then also it gives me a way to course correct if I need to. And for the first batch, again, I had to use that amount of lime juice because I'm canning it. And so the canning process has to have a certain level of acidity when you are water bath canning, which is what we're going to do. So I balanced that out with adding more sugar, which I can add safely in a canning. But now there was a little bit too much salt for me in the actual mixture. I was tasting salt too much. So now I'm just taking the same exact mixture that I had left over, more tomatoes, more jalapenos, more onions, more garlic, and I'm putting it in the food processor, and I will add in the same measure of ingredients. Also, when I look back at the recipe, remember I doubled the recipe. So in terms of my lime juice, I've already put the doubled amount of lime juice in there, but it doesn't have all the tomatoes in there. So that was another reason why it was a little bit too limey, is because remember I had these tomatoes that had not been part of the big batch of salsa. So now that we're doing the second batch, all 5 pounds of tomatoes will be done. So you see me, I'm just adding in the cumin. I'm adding in cilantro. This cilantro is actually from my garden that I freeze dried. I always freeze dry my cilantro and use it throughout the year. And it tastes absolutely amazing. Also, if you're in the market for a freeze dryer, for the month of August, I have a special code where you can get $100 off on top of the August sales that they have going on with Harvest Right. And so you can use that code LFF100, and also it'll be in the description box, or you can always just send me a note and ask me if you don't see it. But I love my freeze dryer, and it comes in handy for many things, but I definitely freeze dry my cilantro to use it all throughout the year. So I'm adding in just a tad more, little bit of lime juice. I added in the cumin already, and now we're just going to pulse this up. And so I'll pulse this up, and then I'll add it to the batch that we already made that's in that stainless steel bowl. And then once it's all blended together, it'll have the right amount of measurements and all of that. And then we'll do another taste test to see if we got it perfect. Okay, so I got the second batch blended up. Now I'm gonna mix it with this. It tastes great. The heat, I always do that. The heat level is perfect. It tasted like it needed some salt, which is perfect because the first one had a little bit too much salt for me. So let's mix this up and see if we have it just right. You can see what it looks like there. Looks good. So let's see if we have it just right. And I use a blend of yellow onions and red onions because that's just what I had readily available. Y'all, that's good. You could use a little bit more heat, but just a little bit. No. The heat is there. The heat is there. That is so good. I'm just, this is my clean spoon. This is the spoon I'm eating from. That's good. That is so good. Okay. We did it. So that's a good way of how you recover in the kitchen. And again, that's the reason, well, one, the food processor was full and I didn't want it to overflow, but I always leave a batch just for that in case something is too hot, not hot enough. And so I had 3 jalapenos total for this big batch. I used 2 in the first one and 1 in the second one, and then I reserved some onions and all of that. But this tastes so good. I love using this Presto electric digital canner for jobs just like this. They're small. I don't have time to babysit it. I can pretty much get it going and set it and forget it. It is perfect for something like this. It's also perfect if you don't have a big family and you don't can a lot in terms of large quantities, and you just can for you and yourself, and you want something smaller. You want something that can fit on your your stovetop. You want something that can just fit on your counter. This is a perfect application for this. This is linked in my Amazon shop if you are interested. I've had mine now for probably, if I had to guess, maybe 3 years or so, and I think it was like a $200 or $300, no more than $300. So that's the cost of the investment. But I'm getting my jars. As you can see, the steam, it's hot water because remember, it was warming it up. And when you're canning, you want to make sure that everything is the same temperature. Hot jar, hot food, hot canner. If you're doing something that is room temperature, then your water needs to be room temperature. Your product needs to be room temperature. So all things have to be consistent. So I get my jars out of the canner, and then I just start to jar them up. So I'm going to jar them up to a 1/4 inch head space, and then I'm going to sterilize and wipe the lids, put the lids on there, tighten them up fingertip tight, and then just put them back in the canner. The jars processed for 15 minutes and now they're done. Again, I was able to go off and do other stuff and do other work. And then when it's done, I can come back and just take the jars out. So I'm going to take the jars out. I'm going to sit them on this towel, and I'm going to let them rest for at least a minimum of 12 to 24 hours, and not disturb them, not move them. And then I'll come back and check the seal the next day. For me, I just usually wait 24 hours because usually I'm doing this, in the afternoon. So I'll check it like maybe in the morning or the next afternoon. Okay guys, so the salsa is done. So just like that, it was only a 15-minute processing time. And what I love about using the electric digital canner is that you don't have to babysit it. If I was water bath canning it, I would have had to been way more involved. But this, once you, it tells you exactly what to do, but then once you fill the jars and you put it in there, you can literally just walk away. It's gonna do its thing. I went and did some work in my office for, I don't know, like 45 minutes. I came back and it was done. So that is good. I got all the pans cleaned up from the salsa. So it only made 4 jars of salsa, which is fine because, again, I'm testing it out. So the next time I have a surplus of tomatoes, once I kind of meet my quota of what I want to get, then I may make maybe 2 or 3 pints of salsa to go in the freezer. And that way I'll have both. If not going to worry about it. 4 cans of salsa in terms of canned is a good thing for me to try. I also did have one that wasn't quite up to, it was almost close. So it almost made 5 pints. This one did not get up to the 1/2 inch headspace that we need. So I'll just put this in the refrigerator once it cools all the way down, and then we can just eat that fresh. And so that's another thing when it comes to canning. Let's just say that your jar doesn't seal, or, you know, when I check it in 12 hours, it doesn't seal. I can always dump that into a freezer safe container and put it in the freezer. So it's not going to be lost 100%. My main thing was to test it out and to see if I liked the canned salsa. And then next year when I'm doing salsa, I'll know if I want, you know, a little bit of both, or if I want to go back to just doing it the freezer way. But again, just trying to show you different methods to meet you where you are, because everybody doesn't can. But if you still want salsa, you can still have salsa. You can just put it in your freezer and it freezes beautifully. So now we're going to move on to our next.
So I'm excited to tell you about this
crop,
next preservation method
and
next crop, which is okra. And I got this idea from one of you viewers. So thank you so much. That's why this is the best community, because we share really great ideas. It's not just me, but it's all of you. So what you see me doing now is kind of the end product, and I'm going to walk you back and show you how I got to this. So I have just taken this okra out of the freezer. I flash froze it, and I'm now putting it in my stasher bag. Y'all know how much I love these bags. Stasherbag.com if you're interested. I won't even give you a soliloquy about it. If you don't know, just ask me. I'll be happy to tell you. But these bags are wonderful. They're pricey, but they're wonderful. So that's the okra on the finished product. Now, let's do some new okra, and I'll show you and tell you exactly what I did. So this is okra from my garden that I have washed and then I have completely dried. So I have that towel right there so that it's not as moist. And I'm cutting the ends off of the okra, and then I'm just slicing them into, I would say maybe 1/2 inch pieces. You can do it as big as you want, but we're going to use this for fried okra. And so one of the viewers suggested, when they heard me talk about my okra and how I wasn't using it because it was like an extra step when it's time to cook it, they gave me the suggestion to cut the okra up and then just put it in whatever seasoning batter that I was going to fry it in, and go ahead and do it that way in the seasoning batter and freeze it. So that way, when it's time to cook it, I literally just pull it out and it's ready to go. And y'all, this has been a game changer. I've already had okra twice this summer as the okra is coming in this method, and I absolutely love it. So what I used to do before was I did this step right here that you're watching. I would cut it up, and I would flash freeze it just like this, raw, nothing on it. I would flash freeze it. And if you don't know, flash freezing is going to prevent it from clumping together when you put it in your freezer. So you cut it into individual slices. You put it on a parchment lined pan like you see there to the right of this video, and you pop it in the freezer and you let them freeze in a single layer. Once they're frozen, you're able to put them then in your Ziploc or freezer bag, and they're not going to clump together and be one big blob of frozen okra together that you can't fry individually. But what this step does here is that we take it one step further at this stage, and we put it in the cornmeal batter. Now, this is just cornmeal batter that I've seasoned. I keep a tub of it in my refrigerator now, which is very, very convenient. And so you can season it however you want. So this is cornmeal, salt, pepper, paprika, onion powder, garlic powder. But you can use whatever you want. You can even use like a Zatarain's fish fry mix, or something like a breaded mix that's already pre-seasoned. And so once you pop it in your freezer and you flash freeze it, then again, you just put it in the bag like I showed you at the beginning of this portion of the video, and you pull it out, and you pull out as much as you want when it's time to fry it, air fry it, roast it, however you do your okra. So this is a game changer, and I love it because when I want okra, it's already done. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, it's another day, another preservation project. And so today I'm gonna be working on my rattlesnake beans. And so when you get the rattlesnake beans from the garden, they look more like this, like the green color, and then they start to look like this. So let me just show you. So a rattlesnake bean that's fresh is gonna look like this, and you have two options. You can eat it as a green bean or preserve it as a green bean when it's in this state right here, the young state, or you can let it dry and it'll become like this, and then on the inside it looks like a pinto bean, and they taste so good. Now I don't use these as green beans, I use these as pinto beans. I tried it for the first time last year. I was able to get, I think, like 1 quart jar for the ones that I grew, and that was it. And I think it made 2 servings, and they were so good that I decided to do more this year. Last year, it was my second succession. I actually planted them, because they only take like 55 to 60 days. And so I actually planted them, I wanna say in July, it's either July or August, because I do a succession every month. I think it was in July, and so I was able to harvest those. And so usually when I bring them in like this, I'll just lay them in a cardboard, but this is just a canning box. I'll lay them in a flat box and just put them in my sunroom in front of a window to let them dry out. And so today, this is the stack that's completely dried out. So we're gonna kind of harvest these, and I have a mason jar, and then I have a stainless steel funnel that I'll just put them in. Now, when I'm doing a task like this in terms of preserving, I am usually doing this on a Saturday night or during the night. I'm never doing this during the day. I'm doing it during the day right now because my internet is down and I can't do nothing else. I can't do my work on the computer, and so it has been a challenge. So I was like, let me go ahead and knock this out and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But the reason why I do it at night is because usually I will do it at the end of a day on a Saturday night, and I am catching up on YouTube. I'm watching, a show or something like that. And so it's kind of like just mindless entertainment. So I can do this, and I can also be getting me some rest and relaxation in by watching a show or something that I haven't had a chance to watch. That's usually what I will do. And so I'm going to kind of go through these, and let me just pop one open so you can see what it looks like. This is what they look like, just like that when it dries. And then I'll just put them in my jar. Versus if I was to open this one, I'll just go ahead and show you what it looks like. The bean is going to be white like that. So it's not dried and turned into like the pinto bean part. So that's what it would be like if I harvested them this way, which I wonder if you could eat this as a bean. I guess you could, but that's more of the fresh state versus the dried state. But again, you would eat this as a green bean if you wanted to, but because I'm already growing green beans in another capacity, and I really like these as a pinto bean, that is what I am going to do. So y'all, I'm just gonna time lapse this, and I'll show you the final, how much we get on the final product, and then I'm just gonna turn on something on my phone and kind of just zone out. Okay, so here is the end result of the rattlesnake beans. Again, we're like at 1/4 of a quart jar, so right around a cup for the little bit amount that I had. So y'all, it's the long game. It is the long game for sure, but they're so good and it's so worth it. But again, if you don't want to go through this step of letting them dry and shell them, then eat them as green beans. Either way, I think it's a great crop for you to try if you've never tried it before. It's ready in like 50 to 60 days, so it's relatively easy. You just need a trellis, and so definitely add it to your list if you've never done them before. So we're done with the rattlesnake beans for now, but I have plenty more
drying in my sunroom, and I have plenty more on the vine. And the thing like these, this is gonna last. These beans can last forever in terms of they're dry. Nothing's gonna happen to them. I just have a lid on it, and then I'll vacuum seal it once I get the jar full. So I'll keep you posted throughout the summer, and I'm sure we'll have. If I get 2-quart jars out of the whole summer, I'll be happy. I got 1-quart jar last summer. And I only did some at the very end of the season, so we'll see what happens. But now we're gonna move on to our next project, which is just freeze drying, y'all. I got my freeze dry trays out, and we're gonna do some spicy peppers and put them in the freeze dryer. I want to tell you about these peppers here, and then you guys have seen me freeze dry a ton of times. But this pepper right here is called the Aji Habanero. It is from Baker's Creek. It's my first time doing it, and I absolutely love it. And so habanero, but it's not as hot as a habanero. It has the fruitiness of a habanero, but not the heat of a habanero. It is very mildly spicy. I would put it somewhere around a jalapeno pepper or less. So if you don't want any spice, it's not a habanada, which is absolutely no spice, but habanero. This does have some spice, but it's not very hot to me. So this is a great one to try if you've never tried it before. They are pretty prolific. So I have a whole thing of them here. I've been putting them in like beans. I've been putting them in fajita mixes. As I have them fresh, I'm gonna actually freeze dry these so that I'll have some. And I'm thinking about either making a dry seasoning mix, or I may also use it to make like a hot sauce or something like that and see how it tastes. But anyway, I'm gonna get these washed, trimmed up. I also have serranos, I have cayenne, and so I have 5 freeze dry trays. We're just gonna fill them up, get the freeze dryer locked and loaded, and then we're gonna come back and keep going through the counters of all the food that we have. Y'all, we got a lot of food on these counters and on these floors. So I'm just trying to muddle through it the best I can when I have a pocket of time. I do want to also let you know that in the month of August, if you're interested in a freeze dryer, you can get $100 off using my code LFF100. That's going to get you $100 off on top of any sales they're having in August. You guys have heard me talk about my freeze dryer. I absolutely love it. Use it all the time. So let me just get to it and get the freeze dryer working for us. For this freeze dryer load, I'm doing all spicy peppers. So I'm starting off with the Aji Habanero pepper, and then I'm also going to do serrano peppers as well as cayenne pepper. I typically try to do all the spicy peppers together and non-spicy peppers separate and together, just because I don't want any of the spice or whatever to kind of infiltrate a pepper that's not spicy. I don't know that it will, but I think I read somewhere on a Harvest Right site that it will. So I just play it safe and just do all spicy together. I also don't do spicy peppers with my herbs and stuff because, again, I'm just wondering in the process, will that spice transfer to the herbs, and I don't want that. So I just kind of keep mine separate. But let me know if you have a freeze dryer and if you have mixed before spicy and herbs or spicy and non-spicy, and if it turned out okay. I would love to know. So now moving on to the serrano peppers. Again, I'm just taking the tops off and putting them on the freeze dry tray. I don't chop them up. I just freeze dry them whole. That works out good, especially if I'm just going to turn these into hot sauce, or if I'm going to make it into like red pepper flakes or something like that. I don't go through the extra step of trying to chop them fine because the freeze dry is going to get it completely dry anyway. And at this point, I don't have on gloves just because I'm not really touching any seeds or whatever. You can see that I'm literally just taking off the top part and the green parts. There's no seeds coming out. Now, when I move on to the cayenne pepper, I do put on gloves because seeds tend to come out of those a little bit easier. And so I do put on gloves for that. But caution, just always use gloves. It just makes it a lot easier. So I'm excited to get these peppers off my counter into the freeze dryer and put them into freeze dryer bags. And that's the beautiful thing about freeze drying, is that it's going to last 20 to 25 years. And so I already have peppers from last year that I haven't used, and I don't feel pressed because they are freeze dried, versus if I dehydrated them, then they're not only going to last for like 12 to 18 months before they lose their color and all of that. So again, if a dehydrator is all that you have, then certainly go for it.
But just know it's not going to last as long. And so just have a plan to use them up. I would say within 12 to 18 months. But with the freeze dry, I don't have to worry about that. I can just add to my stash. And when I have a day that I can make a lot of hot sauce, I'll go in there and I'll get it. And we'll make a lot of hot sauce. I got them all ready for the freeze dryer. And so they're ready. They're loaded or getting ready to be loaded into the freeze dryer. We have 2 trays of jalapenos, a tray of serranos, a tray of cayenne, and a tray of ají habanero. Okay, guys, so the last one we're going to do this week is preserving our peppers. I have peppers from the garden, red, yellow, green, and orange, mostly colored. Now, I'm not a big fan of the green bell peppers, but once I mix them in with this, I can usually tolerate it. But just a recipe with all green peppers, not my cup of tea. But I'm going to chop these, and I've done this many different ways. And so when it comes to peppers, this is one that I find relatively easy to preserve because there's so many ways that you can do it. The easiest to me is to chop them up and put them in your freezer, and that way you have it when you need it for recipes, for soups, for stews, for fajita mixes and all that kind of stuff. That's the easiest way to do it. You can also dehydrate your peppers, or you can freeze dry peppers. So I freeze dry and freeze, but primarily I freeze, and then I have some that I keep on the shelf that are freeze dried that I can use for like soups and stews. So because the freeze dried peppers are going to rehydrate in a liquid or water, I can throw them straight from freeze dried state into a soup or stew. Versus if I'm sauteing something, then I'm going to be more likely to pull it from the freezer and saute it because the oil itself is not going to be enough to hydrate it, I don't think. I never tried it, but I don't think it would. So I have the peppers. I've already topped them and core them. And so today I'm going to use my food processor and I go between my food processor and my food chopper. Today we're going to use the food processor, and we're just going to use the, the slicing attachment. And then we're going to put them in freezer bags, and they'll be ready for. So like I said, they'll be ready for the freezer. And so the biggest thing is just now chopping them into strips or pieces small enough to go in the food processor. And it will take care of the rest. When I was a new gardener and I started freezing my peppers, I used my food processor one day, the first time that I used it for peppers, and I used like the regular attachment that I use all the time. That's more of like a chopper dicer. And I did not like it that way because it makes it really wet. Because it chops it into smaller pieces, I feel like it just gets more mushy. Versus when I do it this way using my slicing attachment, I feel like it stays all dry and it's just easier to freeze. And it's a better consistency. But if you have dishes where you like them really small and find that maybe a food chopper is the better way to go, for me, I tend to use these more like in fajitas, which we have like some kind of taco something every single week that I'm always doing some peppers with, or I'm using it in soups and stews. And so I actually love the taste of peppers. I like having peppers. My husband, sometimes he'll eat them, sometimes he'll pick them out. It don't matter. The pepper's going in there. The peppers are going in there, buddy. And so I like this shape and this size much better. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that let's say maybe your peppers have not produced very well in your garden. If you are close to like a local farmer, then buy, a flat of peppers from them. You can still do this. You can still have peppers throughout the year. Even if you didn't grow them yourself, you can just go get them from a local farm and do the exact same thing that I'm doing. Okay, guys, so I have my bag labeled with peppers. For these, I just use regular freezer bags because I have so many peppers that will be in my freezer, and I don't want to hold up my stasher bags for like a year. Some of them will be in stasher bags, but I'll have some when I get to this point in the season and I have so many, I just start using freezer bags. So we got all of our peppers, or this is not all of our peppers. We got all of those that were in the bowl done, and we got a half a bag. So I have a half a bag of beautiful peppers
from the garden. This will last us literally, y'all, all fall and winter long, and even until next year. I grow enough peppers to last us a whole year. We just used our last bag of peppers from our summer garden of last year, and it's now August, and so now we're just now on the peppers that's coming in from the garden, which is nice. So that works out great. And I use peppers like every single week, and I never have to feel like I gotta be stingy with them or have to buy peppers from the store. The only time I buy peppers from the store during the fall and winter is if I need something that is, you know, raw, like for a potato salad, something where you want the crunch or something like that. But if it's gonna be sauteed or anything like that, we have plenty of peppers in the freezer. So that is another way that you can preserve your peppers, and a quick and easy way that you can do it. Use your food processor, use a food chopper, whatever you do, don't just use this, right? It'll go a lot quicker if you have some type of equipment to help you along. And if you have like a teenage child or something like that, that is, you know, knows how to handle a knife and all that, then that's also a task you can give like your teenager to either use the food chopper. They can sit at the table and use the food chopper while they watching Netflix, TikTok, or whatever. So little pro tip. So y'all, this is the week of preserving. Let me show you what my counters are looking like now versus what they looked like before. Okay, tomatoes was right there. There's now nothing on the floor there. And then when we go over to the counter, these are all the tomatoes that are left. That is it. And they look kind of red on here, but they're not fully red, so they need to ripen a little bit more and get a little bit of a darker red, and they'll be good to go. We have a couple of eggplant, and then we have this little small bag of okra that came in after we did what I showed you in the earlier part of the video. And then y'all, we have these purple whole peas. This was overflowing as you saw before, and now I'm down to this. With these, I just shelled them. I just shuck and shell them. These are the ones that I did last night. This bowl is completely full. I will rinse these off, and then I will put these in freezer bags and put them into my freezer. I have these left to go, which again, I've already done 3 times this amount right there. So y'all, we definitely made some progress this week, which I'm so glad. I am very grateful that my counters and stuff are covered, but it starts to make me feel overwhelmed when I just keep walking past it and it keeps mounding, and my husband wants to keep harvesting. I was like, don't you harvest another thing. Don't harvest one more thing until I can get this done. Because it just starts to mess with me mentally. It's like stuff everywhere. And when I know I have days on end that I'm busy and I won't get a chance to get to it, it just keeps piling up. But I'm glad that over the course of this week, little pockets of time here and there, I was able to whittle it down to a manageable amount. And I'm so glad about that. Now, the thing about the purple whole peas, let me tell you this. You probably are thinking, well, why won't you get a sheller? Well, I did. This is, I think, the second or third sheller I bought, but this time I bought a commercial pea sheller. I was so excited, y'all. So excited. And we unboxed the pea sheller. It is a nice, small shape or whatever. And I'm like, great, it fits on my counter. I don't have to have a big old thing to store or anything like that. It's stainless steel. Great, check. And y'all, it has a 220 volt plug. Why? So, needless to say, we couldn't use it. Our washer and dryer runs on a 220 plug, but there's no other 220 plugs in our house, y'all. So, and I think our freeze dryer runs on a 220 plug that we had to get put in. But other than that, there's no 220 volt plug in my house. Is there a 220 volt plug in your house? Like, y'all. And so I didn't get a chance. It's going back. It's going back. It will be returned and get my money back. But I was so excited. It's been hard for me to find one. I really want a commercial one because I want to be able to do large amounts and just go through. So all the ones that you see that bag was overflowing, these hands did it. Your girl did it by hand. Yes. And that bowl that you saw right there took me probably 2.5 hours. And again, I'm not complaining because I signed up for it. I love purple whole peas. And to me, it's worth it because I love them that much. And it is a staple for us all throughout the year. So I'm not going to complain. I'm just explaining. So if you know of a commercial pea sheller or a pea shell. I've tried, the one I had before was an electric one. It was like janky. It was like something from the, I don't know. I think I spent like maybe $70 and it felt like it was from like the bubblegum machine. We ain't doing that. And then this one that I just bought, I think I spent $175, so more. And I'm thinking, okay, great. Yeah, no. Yeah. No, and no. So anyway, if you know of a pea sheller, if you have one that you don't want, if you know, no, because that'd be hard to ship. If you know of one, run me a link. Somebody run me a link, okay? So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me in this week of preserving. This is just a glimpse of what I do with all the food that I grow in my garden and bring it into my kitchen. This is the third video in this series. And so if you have not seen the other two videos, I will pop them up here. Go back and check because I have tips on preserving zucchini, preserving tomatoes in a couple of different ways. Cucumbers are all the things. So, and also basil, like there's tons of them, so don't let me get to naming. So definitely go back and watch those videos. I would love to know what you are preserving this week in your kitchen. What has been your biggest preserving challenge? Put it down in the comments. I will meet you in the comments. If you have not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Remember, y'all, this is all a journey. From the garden to the kitchen, it's all a journey. But let's do it together. I'll see you next time, friend. Thanks so much for stopping by our channel. And if you would, take a moment and go to our website at livingfoodsfarm.com. You can see all of the latest YouTube videos in case you missed one. You can subscribe to the channel, sign up for our email list, as well as join our YouTube membership. Also, we have many items for sale under the shop tab. You can go to kitchen or to skin and body, depending on what you're looking for. We source many of the items right here from things that we grow on the farm or we buy from an organic source. We also have digital resources as well that you can instantly download. We have everything from seed starting calculators, how to build healthy soil, as well as 2-hour classes, replays on sourdough, canning, and fall gardening, and how to start your garden for the very first time. So go take a look, see if there's anything that you would be interested in, and thank you so much again for stopping by our channel.